Hi there, welcome to Snacks and Stacks. I like to talk about books, TV shows, and movies, and this video will be a reading vlog of my first ever 24-hour readathon. Today I have to go visit a friend. Tomorrow is my mom's birthday, and so I know typically a readathon is like 2 12-hour days, or like 24 hours straight. However, just like my lifestyle is not working with that, and I was going to try to do it this weekend because typically it's the father-son camping trip, but it's going to be raining, and so they're also going to be home. But I didn't want to cancel it because I've been looking forward to it, and so we're going to try our best and see what happens. So I think I'm going to do a 24-hour timer on my phone, and then just, press play every time I start reading and pause when I have to do something. I'm going to try to read for about an hour before I go drop off treats for my son's class and before I go see my friend. So quickly, I'm going to tell you all the books I'm in the middle of that I'm going to try to finish, and I have one very specific book I need to finish during this readathon. I'm doing this on audiobook and physically. An Immense World by Ed Young. This is a nonfiction book about the senses, so not only our 5 senses, but other senses that the animal kingdom has, and it has been very interesting. I actually prefer reading this with my eyes because the audiobook I tune out quite easily. I am 24% into How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days. So far, it's very cute. This will probably be what I'm going to read this morning. This is about a halfling who decides to move out of her house and into her grandmother's cottage, only to find that a goblin and their family or clan has been taking care of the place. And so they kind of have this bet going on to see who can drive the other out within 10 days. And sometimes when I can't sleep, I start a book on my Kindle, which is what happens. So I have a third book I'm in the middle of. I really wanted a quick romance because I was trying to fall asleep. This must be one of those free romance books that you get on like free Kindle days or whatever. And it's called The Sassy Nanny Dilemma, a single dad rom-com by Elizabeth SaFleur. I'm only 2 chapters in. I am also going to read that if I'm going somewhere or I am trying to lay down and sleep. But the book that I have to read and I have to finish is my book club book, which I'm saving for. I usually don't save my book club book until the week before. Well, that's a lie. I try to. Anyways, I saved this because I really want it fresh, but it's The Everlasting by Alix Harrow. I really want to love this book. It's thankfully not very long, so I also think I can get this done in the readathon. So that's 4 books. That's probably about what I see people reading in a readathon. So wish me luck. Let's start the timer. And I have my breakfast here as well, and I'm going to be reading the Goblin book. Alrighty, so we are about 45 minutes in. I read about 2 chapters this morning, and I think it says I'm 37% into this book. So far, I think it's very obvious to me that goblins and halflings obviously represent certain people in our society. And for me, I think that is pretty cool. I can clearly see who's meant to be whom, and I think that's fun, but it's also sometimes can be very much on the nose. But I like the way that they are doing it in this book. The author is doing a good job of showing how types of people quickly assume from kind of lived experience more than actual communication between two different types of species or two different types of people. So we have halflings, which I think honestly very much represents maybe like the middle class, upper middle class, more privileged community of humans, whereas goblins represent more indigenous society. We have certain verbiage like the fact that they live in clans and how much they value nature and nurture not only plants but the animals and life in general. We also have instances where in this book the goblin, they cannot read, and I know that we're not saying indigenous people can't read. I'm saying that they have a different language and a different way of portraying that communication system. And so, in the book, I thought it was really cool that Pansy, the halfling, is leaving and decides to leave a note to let her know that she's gone. And Ren, the goblin, they were like, I can't read this, so I guess we'll just leave it there. And it's also interesting how instead of saying, yeah, I can't read, they just said, I didn't see the note. So I find that, this hesitancy, and I'm obviously very much overanalyzing this, but this hesitancy to communicate to another type of people because there is a stereotype or a prejudice against them, that is what really harms the harmony and kind of beautiful society that we could honestly all have. And so I think what a beautiful way of representing that in this kind of funny story so far. We have like them two trying to force each other out of this house and trying to like make things work their way. And I hope that later on in the book we see them communicate and how communication and understanding can obviously inspire this type of like peaceful and harmonious type of life. It is a cozy fantasy, so you can obviously tell too there is a romance brewing, and so I think this will be a lovely book. So far, I'm really enjoying both characters, and I can definitely see how the goblin is having a lot of trouble and consequences. I very much can see how the goblin species is representing the set of people that have been marginalized and have been kind of set to kind of fail. We have a part in this book where their gardens are being poisoned basically by dwarves and the manufacturing of I think they said weapons or their kind of whatever material that they use. And so like all of these things are very applicable to our life, and I kind of love over analyzing things like that, because I find that when we kind of change the narrative and we're not necessarily pointing fingers, but we're saying, hey, this is what happens, maybe these connections can be made for people and we can, garner some sort of empathy in others, just to kind of try to, like I said, make this world a more peaceful way to live for all creatures. But yeah, so far it's very charming. But it is hitting real life issues, and I really enjoy that. Let me show you what the dogs are doing because they are so cute. So that's Sadie girl. Sadie girl. Sadie. Hi, baby. Are you the cutest? Aren't you the cutest? And her name is Yuki. Yuki, honey. Hi, cutie. All right. See you guys in the next clip.
I don't love this angle as there's like so much stuff in the background, but this is my favorite place to sit and read. Hi, honey. Because we have this nice little L chair, you know, and this is the L part, but there's a giant safe behind me. Okay. We're gonna try to read. I'm done with hanging out. It was a lot of fun. We had like a little tea party at our house, but now it's time to get serious. Goodness, this has a lot of hair on it. And try to read as much as possible. I want to see how far we get in this book today, for the rest of the time until my kid and my husband gets home. So kid should be home in about 3 hours and husband should be home in about 4. So we should get a good dent in here. We have 23 hours and 3 minutes left of this readathon. Do you understand what that means? It means I can't play with you. She hates this idea. My dogs hate this idea. One dog is already laying down on the ground like, oh, this is her reading time. And the other one is already bringing me toys. So we'll see how this goes. Oh, my mother-in-law made me crocheted me this gorgeous blanket. So we've got that for reading too. My goodness, you're already annoying. Are we ready to read? We're ready to read. We're reading. Okay, I pressed play. We gotta be serious.
I am 4 hours in. It looks like I have 19 hours and 58 minutes left. I also had to take a break. My husband came home. We had dinner. We had a bunch to talk about. So, but I did just finish How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days. I thought this was rather good. There's a couple things that didn't meet my expectations. One being, I thought this book was going to take place in 10 days because of the title. It actually takes place in the course of a couple months, which meant the pacing was a little off. And then the very last bit, a lot of stuff happens really quickly in both the relationship and the plot. And so it felt a little weird in that case, but it's actually quite sweet and charming. And like I said, I really liked the representation of 2 different species trying to come together. It makes me think of just how important it is to communicate and to also have an open mind about things. I did like the way things were tied together in the end, and I really enjoyed just like the little pieces of, it's not a mystery, but it's kind of like the plot. There's like these little hints here and there from the beginning that I found to be really nicely tied up in the end there. I think there's a lot of really great cozy fantasy things in here. It definitely has a romance, but the romance isn't quite the most important thing. I think my feedback and criticism is that it doesn't quite pinpoint what is the most important thing, because at first you think it's a relationship because it's about these 2 people that show up at the same house, but then it's not only about the relationship, but it's also about the society a little bit. And then there's also this whole thing with this wizard and how the wizard treats halflings and goblins, and you know, so it got a little big for such a small book, and so it wasn't able to really dive into all those things well, I feel. And so the ending felt very rushed, and then where they are, it felt like they went from crush to like love really quick as well. So I'd say this is good. I have one of my sisters want to borrow it, so I'll lend it out to her. But I'm not sure that it is something that I would reread. But I thought it was cute. She's like, not another day of reading. Ew. Hello, it's day 2. I have 19 hours and 58 minutes left of my 24-hour readathon. My mom actually canceled plans for today for her birthday because of the weather, so we have a full day. I'm going to try to get as much as possible. I think I'm going to start with The Everlasting by Alix Harrow because I have more energy to read this right now, and I'll leave my romance Kindle book for later when I'm like getting sleepy and just want to have an easy reading experience. You know, like the Kindle, what's nice is you can like put it on a holder, have a clicker, and you know, like even less work. So I think that I'll leave for a little bit later, and we'll get started with The Everlasting. The only thing I know about The Everlasting is that it's a standalone fantasy, and there is kind of like a repetitiveness that can't be avoided. And so I will read what it says. A legend. Sir Una Everlasting was history's greatest hero, a lost girl who would draw a sword from the heartwood and become a legend. The knight's epic feats were rivaled only by her tragic fate, a sacrifice that saved a queen and built an empire. A lie. Centuries later, Owen Mallory has dedicated his life to Una Everlasting, abandoning a promising scholarly career to defend his country. He comes home from war broken and weary until he finds a reason to live in the pages of a mysterious book. A love story. Sent back through time, the historian's task is to ensure that Sir Una meets her tragic fate, but instead Owen falls in love with the complex woman behind the legend. He doesn't know how to watch her die or how many times he's done it before. To rewrite Una's legend, they'll have to rewrite history itself. So there's some time traveling and romance, and the map looks very cool. Must be like a tree. That's also important. Okay, so we are about 2 hours in today, and we have 18 hours and 4 minutes left of the 24-hour readathon. I am a little over 50 pages in The Everlasting, and I want to kind of give initial thoughts on this book. The fact that it took me 2 hours to read about 60 pages is a little surprising to me. I thought I read about a page a minute, but maybe I don't. Alix Harrow's writing is it's very good, but it's not simple or always easy to read. And so I actually really appreciate that, but it does take me a couple passes through at times. Like there's a character in here that she calls the queen who was not yet queen, instead of just like giving this lady a name, or just saying name / future queen. I mean, it's interesting. And it's got some places where we have some censoring, which is very interesting. And we are in the perspective of Owen Mallory, who in the little intro that I read, or the synopsis, is the historian, and he is the time traveler. It also throws me off a little bit because in his perspective, he's speaking to the knight Una Everlasting, and so he uses the word you a lot, and it puts you, me, the reader, into the shoes of the knight. And so we finally have them meeting, and it is interesting. There are a lot of clues in the text, which leads to me reading it slower as well. That is definitely insinuating something. I can't quite say because I also don't quite know, but it's got this weird mysterious vibe throughout these first 60 pages of what's happening. There's a lot of feeling of deja vu. So you'll read something and then pages, or maybe even chapters later, something happens that you kind of already read ahead of time. So you're like, oh, is that what this passage is referring to? And so, oh, my hair. And so it's been interesting, to say the least. There is one part in here that I tabbed and ran to find my pencil, and I just really appreciate this as a woman, and so I kind of want to point it out. In the beginning of the book, he talks about how Una Everlasting is portrayed in paintings or in this book. And, what I loved about this is we take about a paragraph to point out how the portrayal of women becomes more feminine, even though Una Love Everlasting is not. So it says, none of those artists had done you justice. They had shied from the sheer scale of you, narrowing the great sweep of your shoulders, tapering your wrists and waist. They made your face smooth and poreless, forever youthful, when in truth it was pocked and windburnt, with heavy lines carved between the brows. Your hair was not the sulphuric yellow of a saint of dominion, but the stark white of a snapped bone. A thick welt of scar fell through your left brow and into the eye beneath it, so that the pupil was misshapen, elongated into a black tear. You did not look like any kind of angel. And so what I loved about this passage is many times we see portrayal of women in history, and they look so perfect and ethereal and angel-like. And, in this book, we're seeing that artists are kind of just making this shit up. So I really loved it as just coming from a perspective of a woman. And then I'm also very curious. I looked and saw that this author actually resides in Virginia, which is also where I reside. And so I know that there is the word Dominion as the country that she is writing about is actually very interesting, because Dominion is used in the state of Virginia a lot. It's just a very interesting term for her to use in this book. And she's also one nation united under one God is used. And it reminds me of the Pledge of Allegiance. And Virginia being the kind of like where a lot of forefathers are from, and also using the term Dominion. All of this makes me feel like there's some hint, wink, wink, at the history of America. So I don't know, I might be overthinking it, but that's what I'm seeing so far. I'm having a little trouble reading today, which is not good for readathon days. I'm quite sleepy, and so I did take a little break to eat a snack, and I keep moving from place to place because every time I get settled in, I get sleepy and I want to fall asleep. So my husband has been graciously cleaning the house, and he has set up different areas for me to read and for me to film, which is very nice of him. But I am probably just gonna try to keep reading and then pause for lunch. I think I will try to read the rest of the book before I hop back on, unless something crazy happens that I have thoughts on.
I don't know how y'all do it. So I have 14 hours and 52 minutes left, and I have close to 100 pages left of The Everlasting, and I am so tired of reading. I remember being a kid and being able to read all day, but I have felt all sorts of weird anxiety. Not really anxiety. I've just been feeling like, oh, I should be doing something else. Or maybe I should do something else now. It's not that I'm bored. The book is quite good. This is not a great book for me to read all in one run because I feel like there are good points in here where I could take a break because of the nature of the book. There's just a lot of things that happen again. But
I am curious about the ending. It's just a part of me is like a little bit tired of reading. My brain is like mush right now. It's kind of silly.
Sup, dog?
You never say hello like that. I'm back. I have 12 hours and 1 minute left, so I'm halfway through the 24-hour readathon, and I have finished The Everlasting. The Everlasting was a very good book. I'm still sitting on what I am feeling about for the star rating. I'm kind of in between 4, 4.5, 5. It's very close to a 5, but I'm not quite sure. I don't know if my hesitancy about it is because I read it all in one day, and so it felt very repetitive, which the story is about a knight and a historian that's kind of trapped in a time loop. So obviously the repetitiveness is just part of it. But there's also things about this that I don't love, but I get, and it's the monologuing, the villain monologuing. And they call it what it is, but I don't know. It's so close. It's so close, but maybe 4.5. But I definitely think it's a book that I very much enjoyed and had a good time with. My husband is very surprised that I read this whole book in a day, but actually 300 pages in 8 hours. 300 pages in 8 hours is kind of slow for me. Because this book, I think, was a little bit, at parts was dense. Like I had to reread a couple lines and stuff. Because, yeah, there's definitely parts that I wanted to go back and like look at and see at every time loop if things had changed. So there are a lot of great themes in The Everlasting. There's the theme of love, sacrifice, and kind of like what it means to write and rewrite history, what it means to kind of like learn from history, and just this whole idea of history being a story. There's a great quote in here that says, "That's not history, that's a story designed to teach us who to hate and who to obey, what god to worship and what flag to fight for, and what color eyes are the most beautiful." And I think that when we are studying history, we need to kind of critically think about how the history is being told to us and think about how events are being portrayed. And I think that was a very strong point in this book. Outside of that, this is definitely an adult book. There's a lot of parts in here that made me a little squeamish, and there was also not necessarily overly spicy scenes, but it is about a couple who is in love. It's not a closed door situation. You know, you read some romance books and they say certain words to replace certain body parts. This author is not afraid to just use, the body part words, if that makes sense. Which I think is fine. But I wasn't quite expecting it because I think the previous book I read from Alix Harrow did not have any spice in it at all. So I was a little bit surprised by some of they're very short scenes, but they're in here. So yeah, The Everlasting by Alix Harrow. Second book finished in my 24-hour readathon. I will probably give my eyes a bit of a rest now. And maybe I can do 12 hours tomorrow if I do some audiobook listening and reading. I have a very short book on my Kindle that says that it's predicting that I could finish that in 4 hours. The audiobook has almost 8 hours left. So both of those is about 12 hours actually. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Good morning. It is Sunday and we have about 11 hours and 32 minutes left. And we're gonna do some audiobook while I'm on my walking pad. Still, just trying to get a quick workout in. Usually I go to the gym on Sunday mornings, but I'm gonna just try to do a quick walk, an hour walk on my walking pad while I edit some photos for a family member and listen to An Immense World. An Immense World is about animals and how they sense the world. So each chapter is based on a sense, and it's more than just the 5 senses that we have. And right now I'm on Contact and Flow, and that is a 79-minute chapter, so listening at 1.25 speed. I'll probably get about an hour of it. Well, last night I read a little bit more of the Nanny, Sassy Nanny dilemma. I don't know if I'm loving it. I don't hate it, but it's fine. So I don't know if I'll continue that book or if I will start a new book. Let's start editing. Let's start walking. Hello. Okay, so I have 10 hours left of my 24-hour readathon. And I have been listening to An Immense World by Ed Young. It's interesting, but it's actually very hard for me to listen to because I listened to a full hour-ish, hour plus of it while I was editing photos and folding laundry, but I can only retain so much. So I really want to not just like complete a book, but I want to understand and comprehend and keep some of that information in. So I was talking to my husband about whether it would make an interesting vlog to read a nonfiction book about animal senses versus like a fiction book, which I know more people probably care about. But I think what I'm going to do instead is pick a new book, and I'm going to pick it from my 26 for 26. I'm not going to continue reading the Nanny book. I'm just not that interested in it. Let's go downstairs and see what we have left. Alrighty. So we have a bunch of fantasy books. We have the Chaos Walking series, which I don't feel like starting a series. We have a standalone, which is Among the Burning Flowers. This is short enough. We've got the rest of the Howl's Moving Castle series, the House of Fear, which I think I'm supposed to be buddy reading with a friend, so I won't pick that one. Red City is an option. And in the back, we have Under the Oak Tree, book 2, which I think is pretty high up there. I have an ARC that is going to be published in June, so that's pretty much a good one. Out of the Woods is a romance book. That could be an easy read. Short story collection by Ken Liu, System Collapse, The Scammers, or A Forgery of Fate.
This other cutie patootie. Help me pick my next book. Pick a number between 1 and 12.
You already know what I'm gonna pick.
4.
Yes. Horse. 4.
Should I start on the top row or the bottom row?
Top.
It is The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories by Ken Liu. Oh, there's a squirrel out there. My energy level is like way down. So I have pretty much 6 hours left, and I am maybe 40% through The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu. I have read 7 out of 15 short stories. And the last one I just read is called The Regular, and it read like a SVU case, and it was like hard. I was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? And so it read like a sci-fi SVU case. Each story has just gotten a little bit more dark. And so I think I need a pause. Not because they're bad, but because I can only read so much stuff that makes my brain go, oh my god, oh shit, oh what the fuck, and all of that. So a quick review of each of these stories from me. The bookmaking habits of select species, super creative. However, I'm not smart enough for it. Like I didn't quite get it. To start off with, that one is a choice. I'm definitely less of a science creative than a magic creative. So I felt like it was very science fiction with different species and how they would collect memories and stories and make books. It was cool until I just didn't get it. State Change, the story of a girl whose soul is an ice cube. I really liked that one. It was 16 pages, but I really enjoyed the way that story played out. I really enjoyed the feelings that you get about it. I really enjoyed the letter at the end. I personally, maybe because the first story made me feel really dumb, was very happy to get the second story with this ending that kind of helps really guide you through what the story was about. The perfect match is felt like I actually checked the publication date for this, and it was 2012, and I thought that was amazing because the perfect match makes me think of ChatGPT. And it's basically about AI and algorithms and how we feed our data and information into this machine to get it to know us and then predict and do all the thinking for us. So that was amazing. That was amazing in a way of like, wow, he predicted this almost 14 years ago. It's amazing to see it play out and see kind of how where I feel like we're heading that way. Good hunting. The Demon Hunter and the Fox. That one was really fun too. That story, I felt that like this is the type of story that I really enjoy. It's story with magic and folk tales and a bit of history to it as well. The perfect match kind of left on like a bittersweet tone. Good hunting, I felt like left on a bit of a more hopeful tone, which is always something I enjoy. The Literomancer, that one hurt. That one was hard for me to read. I thought that the Literomancer was a great story to help teach you more about Taiwan and China in the 60s, about the communists and the nationalists. However, oh my god, that was a tough story. It was hard because I loved the part where we're studying Chinese calligraphy and writing and how parts of the words make up a word, and the whole idea of almost like playing tarot cards with words was a lot of fun, and was interesting as a person who loves calligraphy and words in general. But what happens in the story is it was very hard to read. I don't know how to say this word. Simulacrum. That one was kind of sad. It's about the story of a father and a daughter, and there's a lot to it. It was about a couple things, not only about a father's love for their daughter and how parents are people and they make mistakes, but also about the idea of a photograph, the idea of videography, holograms, and then this invention that he makes, the simulacrum, in the commentary on that. And then the one I ended on is the regular. Like I said, felt like an SVU case. Felt like I was watching a Criminal Minds type of show, and that, but with sci-fi elements. I feel like honestly, the regular could be a movie. It could be an episode. It was crazy. It was a good one though. I think I'm actually gonna recount that one to my husband because he loves crime shows. Anyways, I have 6 hours left, but I was hoping I could just read this all the way through and finish my readathon, but I really can't. I don't think my heart can take it. So I'm gonna, I guess, go back to the Nanny book because it's simple and light and easy. See ya in the next clip. I have about an hour and 42 minutes left. I did forget to press start on the timer for about an hour, and so I let it run for about 30 minutes while I was making breakfast and like taking a break. And then I also let it run while I took some small breaks in between some short stories. But as you can tell, my brain is so muddy now. Like, I'm just exhausted. I am very much more of an audiobook reader when it comes to binging, but I've been having trouble retaining my audiobook, which is the nonfiction of Immense World. Because of that, I don't want to listen to it. Like, I read not to just complete books. I read to understand and enjoy them. And I was not enjoying it because I couldn't remember any of it. And so I didn't listen to as much as I wanted to over the 24-hour period. I did read and finish the Sassy Nanny Dilemma by Elizabeth SaFleur. This was because it was late last night and my husband was asleep. So instead of trying to find another book on my Kindle to start, I decided to just stick with what I was reading. This is an average romance book. It was fine. The little girl's cute in the book that she nannies, but the little girl is supposed to be 5 or 6 going into first grade. And there are parts where I was like, oh, this little girl feels like a 5-6-year-old. And there are parts where I was like, this is not a 5 or 6-year-old. This is like an 8-9-year-old. And I think they try to make it seem like she was more advanced, but I don't know. It didn't quite work. Anyways, I also read a volume of Firefly Wedding. I really, really enjoy it. I put out a short about the first 4 volumes. This one was so cute. This one was so short. I think I only read it in like 45 minutes, so I can't wait to get volume 6. And then I went ahead and read 2 more stories in the Paper Menagerie. The Paper Menagerie was the first story I read. I really liked that one, but I felt like it was too short. If you've ever read it, the ending, like the letter, that's too long of a letter to put on where it said it was put on. Don't you agree? So felt like that was a little bit of a shortcut. It was just too short. It was just too short. And then the one after is an advanced reader's picture book of comparative cognition, and that was too complicated. My brain read it and didn't understand it. I really wanted to try to finish this book during the readathon, but like I said, it's not about completing book, it's about enjoying books and comprehending them, and I'm not doing either of that. So we have 2 library books I need to finish so I can return them to the library. They're both manga. It's Sakamoto Days 19 and 20. I have less than 2 hours left. These are the last 2 things I'm reading, and then we will do a wrap up. I just legitimately did not know how tiring this whole thing would be. I'm also really mad because it's sunny outside. It was supposed to be rainy and gross, and that's why my family stayed home instead of doing their camping trip. I feel like it's not fair. It's also been very hard to vlog and do all of this with my family around because I just want to hang out with them. And I've been, I'll like sit with my husband as I'm reading and he's watching stuff, but I can't watch with him and I can't like do too many things. I can't really we can't go out places because I'll be reading the whole time. I just realized I didn't tell you what this is about. Sakamoto Days is about a retired assassin, and he has fallen in love, got married, has a kid, and now runs a grocery store. But all of a sudden, there are people after him, and he has a bounty on his head. We are 19 volumes in. It's very action-filled. It's comedic. It's making fun of its own genre a little bit. But yeah. 3, 2, 1. We did it. Okay, confession, the last 2 minutes was just me setting up my camera. But I did it. Whew! 24 hours. So I ended up finishing the 2 Sakamoto Days volumes and still had like 30 minutes left. And so I read one more short story in the Paper Menagerie, and I'm at 51%. So I was able to read half of this. And I guess the palate cleanser of the mangas were good enough. I did understand-ish the story of the wave, which I thought was quite good. I really do think I need to reread a lot of these short stories in a few years, maybe, so that I can read them when I'm smarter, for lack of a better word. So at the end of the 24-hour readathon, I finished How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days. I started and finished The Everlasting. I then started the Paper Menagerie and I got 50% through. I also read 3 manga volumes, number 19 and 20 of Sakamoto Days, and Firefly Wedding number 5. And I also listened to 1 hour of An Immense World by Ed Young. So that is the end of the 24-hour readathon. I'm so happy it's over, and I still have, it's 1 p.m. on Monday of my 4-day holiday weekend, so I still have some of the holiday weekend to spend with my family. Would I do this again? I would not do this again if my family's home. Although my husband and my son were able to help feed me and take care of the dogs, it was just like really hard to not spend time, especially with my husband, when they're home. I think the idea of a 24-hour readathon is a lot of fun as a reader, but for my personality, it made me feel like I had to read, and I don't know if I really enjoyed it as much as I liked challenging myself to reading like a manga a day or reading an hour a day. I felt like those challenges were a lot more fun than reading for 24 hours, even though I had 4 days to complete it. Let me know if you've ever done a 24-hour readathon or challenge, if you enjoy that sort of thing, and if you were going to, what kind of books would you choose? Happy snacking, happy reading, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Don't forget, like and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button. It helps us out. Well, helps her out. You got this.
I don't ever say that.